Hello, everyone. Welcome to the AFTM Online. That's the Austin Friends of Traditional Music here in Austin, Texas. We've been doing a series of interviews of interesting musicians since we can't get out and gather around and play with each other as we normally do. I'll tell you just a little bit about the AFTM. This organization was founded in 1974 and continues to support traditional music in every way possible, which normally involves jams around the Austin area, performances by traditional musicians, and a really wonderful festival every October. Unfortunately, due to the pandemic, all of that stuff is canceled. So being online is about the only way we can get together with each other. But today we're going to spend some time talking to a very interesting musical couple that has been in Austin for some time and knows the AFTM in and out. I should tell you first, though, check out our website, aftm.us, where you'll find our Real Times newsletter, information about song circles and jams that are held virtually online, and a great article written by Chip Bach about how to keep on virtually picking, online aids for the isolated musician. But today we're going to be speaking with two really wonderful people, wonderful musicians. They are active in the Austin Friends of Traditional Music, and they are Tim and Angie Wooten. Tim and Angie, great to see you today.
Good to see you too, Gary.
Good to see you, Gary.
Good to see you indeed. I see a banjo lurking in the background. I think that's always a good sign. Tim and Angie are members, more than just members of the AFTM. But they have been involved for some time, and I can't imagine traditional music in Austin without Tim and Angie. But I don't know where the story begins, so I was wondering if you two might tell us whereabouts you grew up and how music came into your lives back in the early days.
You want to go?
Okay. Well, I grew up in East Texas, Tyler specifically, and I started playing the guitar when I was about 12 years old. And by the time I was 14, I had a little band of three of us. And we just did folk music. I hadn't heard old-time music until quite a bit later. We played just, for the single adults and the parents without partners. But it was a lot of fun, and we did a lot of playing and singing together. And then I sort of stuck with it until I discovered the banjo. And the banjo I discovered, you don't have to sing, which is not my forte, singing. So I could play, and also by playing the banjo, I could play with a lot of other people and not just by myself. And so it wasn't to perform, it was just to play music with people. I didn't get that opportunity growing up, though. I just, we did a little bit of John Prine and stuff like that on our guitars at parties.
Yeah.
And I got to old-time music, but not until my children were watching Sesame Street, and I heard the letter A come in with an old-time tune playing in the background. I like that.
Yeah. So you were an adult by the time you picked up the banjo, Angie, is that true?
Yes, I was plenty adult, and Steve Martin, as Tim wants me to tell the story. You can edit it out later. But
No, it's a good story.
Yeah, I was a single mother and in school and kind of in a low point in my life for sadness. And watching Saturday Night Live one night, Steve Martin came in with his arrow on his head and a banjo, and he said, "You can't be depressed and play the banjo." And I said, well, we'll see about that, because we'll see. So I went to the pawn shop and I got a banjo, and I signed up for a 6-week course on banjo in Denton, where I was living and going to school at North Texas State University, and signed up for this class. And it was mainly bluegrass, but Steve Martin is right, because that then led into Austin, where I met so many wonderful people. I met the Austin Friends of Traditional Music. I got to play. Somebody introduced me to the no need to have finger picks to play the banjo. You can just do what's called frailing or claw hammer. And so I learned that. And then later, I wrote a little letter to Steve Martin, which we gave to Sarah DeRose at her Austin City Limits filming, to thank him and tell him that he was right. You can't be depressed and play the banjo.
Well, that is a pretty great story, Angie, for sure. It is the most fun instrument of all. I don't think there's any question about that. But your talented husband is a fiddler, and Tim, was fiddling part of your young life as well as your mature years here?
I didn't start playing the fiddle till I was 21 years old. But I had played other instruments, the guitar and the bass and the harmonica. I still play the harmonica, but I don't play the guitar anymore, or the bass. But I had a grandfather who played the fiddle, and he actually, we have a film, a home movie of me playing a little toy fiddle when I was maybe 3 years old, and I'm standing right in front of my grandfather, who I call Papa Wooten, and I'm trying to play that little toy fiddle. And so I had an inspiration from an early age, and that was my grandfather, Thomas Jefferson Wooten, who went by Duck as his nickname. But he inspired me, and later we learned almost all the tunes that we had that he recorded, which weren't many, and they were recorded in about 1958. But I started playing the fiddle, and like Angie, I didn't know what old-time music was, and I tried my hand at a little bluegrass and Irish music. And then later I found out that some of the tunes I was playing from my grandfather were called old time, which is not a very good term because it's so broad, but kind of the Appalachian old time fiddle style dance music is what it is, very rhythmical. So that's how I got started playing music.
Were your early years spent in Texas, Tim?
Yes, I was raised near College Station, Texas.
I see.
And then I went to graduate school at North Texas State University. You've heard that? That's not just a coincidence, but anyway, North Texas State University, I played music with a fellow named Tim Walsh, and we had a band called the Tims, and we also backed up a dance troupe called Dance Theater of the Southwest. I don't know if it still exists, but they did kind of improvisational dance, and we backed them up. And Tim Walsh was the first wind player for Brave Combo. And he joined Brave Combo at its very inception. And they actually used my old 66 International Harvester pickup to move their equipment around a few times. So I was their first roadie. And but Denton, Texas was a hotbed of all kinds of music. And that's where I first met Angie. Dan Foster, whom a lot of people know, he was up there at about the same time. My brother, Terry, who's a very good musician, was up there. And Tim Walsh, who I just mentioned. And so I had a lot of people to play music with and had a lot of fun in Denton. And that's where I met Angie.
I see.
At a music park. Yeah.
At a music park, that's where you two met?
A music party that Dan Foster had in his backyard, where he invited a lot of really interesting people, and he had a room set up and everything was recorded. I would love to hear it if it's available, but each group went in. We had some Irish music, some old time, lots of stuff. Anyway, that was a great party, and I got to meet Tim.
Yeah. And now you and Tim and Dan Foster are all on the board of the AFTM, and it's a few years have passed since the days in Denton, I guess. When did y'all come down to the Austin area?
1995. No, 1990. 1990, I came here. When did you come?
I came in 1979. No, you were already here. You came in 1980.
1980. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah,
I came in 1980.
She came in 1980. I came in 1979, and got a state job working for the state. But I kept playing music, whenever I could.
Indeed.
We at that time were playing. I had not run into Tim too much then, but I ran into him at one of our music festivals, where I was, as my daughters say, on banjo crack and ignoring them. And Tim was sitting there listening to the music, and he just did that to my little daughter, who was about 2.5, and she crawled up in his lap and went to sleep. So we kind of reconnected there. And,
wow.
Yeah.
That's a touching story. Mommy's on banjo
really
crack, and the baby.
Yeah, they still
him.
say that. I was just playing and playing. But it was probably one of the first festivals that Austin Friends of Traditional Music had. It was called the Austin Friends of Traditional Music Convention. And it was at Waterloo Park. We had John McCutcheon there. And anyway, that was just another story. I distracted you. What else did you ask?
Yeah.
Well,
Now we're in the early 1980s. Is that roughly correct?
Right, 1980.
Uh-huh. And I've known that the AFTM existed since 1974, I think, but it was obviously in business at that time. And did you two get involved at the AFTM pretty promptly thereafter?
No, it was in full swing. It was a very big organization. And the jam sessions and the open mics, there was probably about 75 people that would come and take turns performing. And then people were outside everywhere jamming. It was a really active group then.
Later, at that time, the bluegrassers and the Irish people, all the traditional folks were, I won't say all, but we had membership that spanned Irish and bluegrass and folk music and old time. And later, of course, the bluegrass people formed their own organization, and the Irish people formed their own organization and split off from the original AFTM.
Sad to say.
Yeah, I understand. But when did you two become married people, may I ask?
1982, about 2 years after we kind of met.
Yeah, 1982.
Yeah.
And then I started getting him away. He was playing more Irish music at the time, so I kind of influenced him, I believe, a little bit more toward old time.
Yeah. Yeah, once I heard old time, I said, I think I like this better. And I still know a few Irish tunes, but I started focusing on the old time fiddle style.
Yeah, and as you said, you had heard your grandfather playing this kind of tune when you were growing up. So it's a little bit of it's in your blood, I suppose, Tim.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And I first got on the board of AFTM in the mid-1990s, at which time the board of AFTM was run by dancers, and all they were doing, the only reason they were involved is so that they could get the insurance through AFTM. And they were putting on no festivals, no events of any time, of any kind rather. They had almost no money. And Chris Kelly said, Tim, you ought to get on that board because there's no musicians on it right now. And so I did. I got on the board, and I've been on the board ever since the mid-1990s. And I need to probably get off the board and let somebody else take my place.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting. At that time, there was only 4 board positions: the president, vice president, secretary, and treasurer. So the board was very small. And a few years later, at Elizabeth Pittman's suggestion, we expanded the board. Because as you know, it's a working board. A lot of boards just meet and kind of do policy stuff, but our board is a working board, and so it really helps to have a larger board.
One question I had was, when did the Austin String Band Festival began. It's just one of the great festivals in Texas, or the whole country for that matter. And it's not going to happen this October as it usually does because of the pandemic. But when about did that festival start to take place?
What year was it? 2002?
No,
2000?
I'll have to go through my T-shirts.
It's sometime in the early 2000s.
Uh-huh. So it's a 21st century thing.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was, I guess, inspired by our visits to music festivals where there was a lot of camping out and jamming together. And we wanted to attract people from other states to come to Texas so that we would have a source of new tunes, new energy. So we wanted to have something more like that than the festival we had before that and simultaneously was the Midwinter Festival, which has been going on longer than I can remember. It had other names, but that was the only festival. But this one with the camping and all that was designed to bring in people and have learning from other places. And it focused on string band music and not just everything with traditional music that we had focused on with our other festival.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is a great festival, and as you say, it draws from other states. When I lived in Iowa for 3 or 4 years, I would come back in October because I didn't want to miss that festival. And it's such a beautiful time of year in Texas out at Camp Ben. I'm sure hoping that we'll be back in business next October, but unfortunately this year it just could not happen. So we don't have any replacement activities. I was telling the people about our newsletter and the article that Chip Bach wrote that has so many good virtual alternatives for isolated musicians. Have you two done any online activities since you've been isolated due to the COVID situation?
No.
Well, the only thing we've done is we have played several times for a local church, and their broadcast, I mean, they're online, you know, it's not it's a virtual service, is what I'm trying to say. And so it's been shown, but that's the only thing we've done related to being online.
Mm-hmm.
I seem to welcome a banjo and a fiddle.
Always welcome.
It's a rural church, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We are rural people.
Yeah.
That's right. You don't live in the city of Austin, but in fact, you're like roughly an hour away. Is that about right?
An hour west in Cypress Mill.
I was going to ask about kids. Were there kids in the family growing up that played music just like their talented parents did?
I don't know how you get your kids to keep doing that, but we made the effort, and they both played music, but there was no fiddle teacher I could find, so they took Suzuki violin, and they learned to play. And our older daughter completely dropped it. Our younger daughter can still play, but she's very busy with her career as a lawyer, and so she doesn't play anymore. And our grandchildren are not too interested either, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, that can change. My kids have certainly had like a renaissance of interest in music after they got north of 30, I think. Both of them are playing guitar every day. So hopefully we can pass it on to future generations. I know the AFTM would love to have more younger participation in its events. And our scholarship program is something I might have mentioned before, or I should have mentioned before. But normally there is a scholarship to send a young person under 30 years of age to the Swannanoa Gathering in the East once a year, but that's not happening this year. So what the AFTM has done is put that same amount of money aside, and we're offering $200 scholarships for people to take online instruction of one kind or another. And there's a lot of great instruction available online. Our first scholarship went to Celebrindle Roberts, and she's actively pursuing that now. And I think the people can still apply for that. The age limit is 30. But if you go to aftm.us, you can find out about those scholarship activities. We would really love to have more youthful people involved in our organization.
We would.
I agree. That would be fantastic. We've got some money set aside, and we just need some takers that are willing to go online and take lessons. And there's a wide choice. As you mentioned, Chip has an article about this, and I think some of them are listed on our website. But there's a wide range of different instruments and people that teach those instruments, and so you just need to pick one that suits you and ask us for some money. And if you meet the very loose qualifications, then you'll be in business.
Yeah.
Also, Tim was teaching some fiddle lessons in the park with a distance of 8 feet between him and his students.
Oh, how nice.
Yeah.
What town does that happen in?
That happens in Bee Cave
Uh-huh.
in the park.
Mhm.
Bee Cave Central Park.
I see. Well, it has been great fun talking to you two. And Tim told me that you might be able to favor us with a tune at the end of the interview. Is that a possibility?
Sure.
Yes.
Tell them about the tune.
Yeah, this is one of my grandfather's tunes that my father actually recorded on an old reel-to-reel that he borrowed from A&M University back in 1958. And it's called Rabbit Hash, and it's a tune that he's the only source of it. There's no other source for this tune. So that's the one we want to play, just to tie it into a little family history.
This was a meal of some kind at one time, rabbit hash?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's a town. It's a place.
Oh.
Rabbit. Yeah, there's a Rabbit Hash, Tennessee, isn't it?
Something.
There's a town named Rabbit Hash, and there's also a meal named Rabbit Hash. And I guess if you're hungry and you had plenty of jackrabbits around, and Rabbit Hash was on the menu.
Mm-hmm. We learned so much through the AFTM.
There's a lot of rabbit stories in AFTM. Rabbit tunes, a lot of rabbit stuff.
Oh, yeah. And this one is in Cross A tuning. My grandfather actually did it somewhere south of Cross A. He wasn't tuned up to concert pitch, as they might say, but he was tuned down a little below this. But we're in just a standard A tuning for the fiddle and the banjo. This is Rabbit Hash, take 38.
All right. Rabbit Hash, performed by Tim and Angie Wooten. It's been a real great pleasure talking to you today. Thanks so much for taking the time So tell us a little bit about the Tim and Angie story. Anything else you'd like to end here as we close things up?
Oh, well, I don't want to not mention the Double Eagle String Band. So we have been together with our dear friends in the Double Eagle String Band for about 25 to 30 years, and we have just, that's been one of the biggest gifts of my life, is playing with them. So
I did not realize the band had been around that long. It's a great old-time band, really great people, as you say, really fun people for sure. So when life gets back to normal, look for an opportunity to listen to the Double Eagle String Band here in the Austin, Texas area. And thanks to everyone for listening to this little interview today. Check out our website, aftm.us. You'll find out links to all this stuff we've been talking about. Thanks again for watching, and we'll be doing this again very soon.